It is often said that clothes make the man, and nowhere is that truer than in the case of superheroes and their costumes. I'm Cape Joel, and join me today as we take a closer look at the history of the Batsuit. Now, you may all be fascinated to learn that Batman's iconic costume actually has its roots in the Italian Renaissance. No, I'm serious. Bob Kane and Bill Finger drew much inspiration not only from the pulp heroes of the time like Zorro and even the Shadow, but also from the famous plans of painter Leonardo da Vinci's flying machine. And really, do you need any more proof of what I'm saying than to look at this early concept piece for Batman? Yes, Batman was originally supposed to have blonde hair and instead of a cape, big uncomfortable looking wings. Luckily, saner heads would prevail and Batman would premiere in 1939 with a costume closer to what we all know and love today. Some items that were lost over time include the purple gloves and the much bigger, longer bat ears on the cowl. Those would be trimmed down to a more reasonable size. Bruce Wayne's reason for adopting the bat gimmick was tied to a bat crashing through the window of his dead father's study, giving our would-be hero the perfect symbol to terrify criminals with. Now, while every artist may have their own individual take on the outfit, what we know for sure is the suit is made of a triple weave Kevlar or some other such material depending on which era we're in. The Kevlar, of course, offers our hero bullet resistance around his most sensitive areas, mainly being the chest. Over the 75 odd years the character of Batman has been around, our hero has taken to updating and modifying the suit as circumstance dictates. Some of the more outlandish modifications include things like propellers in his shoes for when he needs to move fast on water, antennas in the cowl for communication purposes, and even knockout gas vents on his gloves, and even a built-in electrical system to shock would-be assailants. In the 1970s, famous comic artist Neil Adams would put his own spin on the Batsuit in such major ways as having the cloak becoming a more scalloped-edged cape, the gloves becoming gauntlets with 3 claws on the edges. These claws were supposedly meant to help Batman in his climbing, and it's also been shown time and time again that in a pinch, Batman can stop a bladed weapon with these gauntlets. The cape and cowl of this era was now bright blue, and the bat symbol had a yellow eclipse around it. This costume, made from a very unique fire retardant and chemical retardant triple weave Kevlar thread, was also said to have carbon nanotube fibers that imparted it with a unique sheen and made it very hard to rip. The 1990s would be a period of much change for Batman and indeed comics as a whole. This period would see Batman ditch his blue duds completely in exchange for a more full-on black attire. This new costume, seen most prominently in the Troika storyline, also found Batman abandoning his briefs on the outside, a standard for almost all the major DC heroes. Eventually, the boots and gloves would return to no longer making the suit look like one solid piece, but it would still be a few more years before Bats put his trunks back on. Still, in my mind, that probably wasn't the biggest Batman fashion faux pas of that time. Need I remind you of his JLA era getup when his shoulders had gothic spikes on them for some reason? As of the 2000s, around the storyline No Man's Land, Batman's costume would undergo yet another change. The blue and the briefs were back, but the yellow circle around the Bat's symbol had been removed. This was seen as an attempt to return to a more original, classic-looking Batman costume. It should also be noted that the utility belt was now more in line with the one seen in the story Batman Year One. Now, during the events of 2009 Grant Morrison's story Batman R.I.P., after getting dosed with powerful psychotropic drugs, Batman, believing himself to be the Batman of Zur-En-Awe, dons a multicolored monstrosity, this costume itself being a reference to much older, much campier Batman stories. Now, after his apparent death at the hands of Darkseid in Final Crisis, the so-called final Batsuit was put on display in the Batcave, making it so Bruce Wayne's spirit could be felt throughout the entire Bat family. Of course, Bruce Wayne wasn't really dead, just lost in time, and trying on a bunch of different period outfits while he was at it. And when he finally did return, he got himself yet another new costume. Prominently featured in the pages of Batman Incorporated, this new suit designed by David Finch offered an opportunity to help differentiate Batman from all the other members of the ever-growing Batman Inc., and even Dick Grayson, who had donned his own costume during his mentor's absence. The yellow bat symbol was back and bigger than ever. There were blue lines juxtaposed to an even brighter shade of gray, and the belt looked now even more high-tech than it ever had before. When DC Comics rebooted in 2014 as part of the New 52 initiative, almost all the heroes got new costumes, including Batman himself. himself. The new 52 suit managed to marry a lot of what fans loved about older suits and now featured no briefs and an even more armored appearance courtesy of Jim Lee. And that's pretty much the entire history of Batman's Batsuit right up until the time of this recording. Now, obviously, this is a huge topic and I was only able to scratch the surface. You know, I didn't include such one-off costumes like the Suit of Sorrows or the Tengu Ninja outfit because, well, mainly if you ask me, those are episodes in their own right. Same with other characters who have worn the Batman costume like Damien in the alternate future and even John Paul Valley Azrael. Ditto goes for all the armored bat suits and war mechs like from Dark Knight Returns and Endgame, plus the mountains of movies and video games and cartoons. This is really a topic that keeps on giving and something I will have to revisit at some point in the future. But until then, everyone, I hope you enjoyed the video, I hope you learned a little something, and until next time, this is Cape Joel, out.